Welcome to this deep dive. We take a whole stack of sources, articles, research, all sorts of notes, and, well, we try to pull out the most important nuggets for you.
Yeah, get right to the core of it.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into something really fundamental to the American identity, really. The American dream.
Mm-hmm.
You know the old story, right? Go to school, get a good job, buy a house, live the dream, that whole thing.
The classic script.
But our sources today, they paint a really, really different picture. They're presenting Gen Z's new motto, maybe for 2025. What's
Yeah.
the point?
Yeah.
So our mission here is to explore how that dream seems to have, well, crumbled for this generation, and maybe figure out what comes next.
That's a really stark contrast you've set up right at the start, and it perfectly frames what our sources are showing us. They give us this compelling, sometimes pretty challenging look into how this generation is actually living. It helps us get not just what's happening, but, why it feels so significant for so many people right now. We're going to be unpacking sort of the layers here, financial, social, emotional, all these challenges feeding into this huge shift.
Okay, let's unpack it then. Let's start with what feels like the most immediate kind of crushing thing. The sheer weight of financial burden.
Right.
The sources are pretty clear. For a lot of young people, adult life kicks off with debt before they even get properly started.
Yeah, it's baked in from day one.
They specifically point to this staggering average student debt figure for 2025, over $40,000. I mean, think about that. What does the research say about how that debt really changes the game right from the beginning? How does it hit their outlook?
Well, what's really striking from the sources is that, the debt isn't happening in isolation. It connects with all these other economic pressures,
Like what?
like rent, inflation. They've shot up so much that jobs that used to be okay, entry-level jobs, they're just not enough to live on anymore.
Right. Not even close sometimes.
Exactly. So it pushes a lot of Gen Z folks into gig work, no benefits, no real stability. It's just this treadmill trying to survive, basically.
And the stats back this up.
Oh, absolutely. The sources mentioned that a shocking 43% of college graduates are still living with their parents.
43%. Wow.
Yeah. And there's this quote from Kiara. She's 24 from Texas. She says, and it really hits home. I did everything right, and I still can't afford to move out.
Oof. Did everything right. That's powerful.
It really shows how these big systemic things trickle right down into your everyday personal life, your ability to just launch.
So, okay, if that's the starting line, this debt and low wages, what about that traditional finish line, or maybe like the vanishing point, home ownership?
Right.
Our sources suggest that for a huge chunk of Gen Z, that dream is, well, effectively dead.
Yeah, that word dead comes up. It's stark.
And it's this double whammy, right? Down payments are just astronomical, totally out of reach for most. And then mortgage rates are way up, over 7% now.
Brutal combination.
What else did the research dig up on why this feels so impossible now?
Well, what's really fascinating, or maybe depressing, when you look bigger picture, it isn't just right now problem.
Okay.
Our sources point out that home prices, they've grown 6 times faster than wages over the past 20 years.
6 times faster than wages. Just let that sink in.
Yeah. It's a fundamental imbalance. There's this guy, Josh, a 28-year-old nurse in California. His observation really sums it up. He says, my parents bought their house for $180K. It's now $900Ks. I'll never own anything.
Wow. That feeling of never.
Exactly. And it's not just, I can't buy a house. It hits deeper. It affects long-term stability, how you build any wealth, just the whole idea of aspiring to something bigger.
It changes the definition of making it.
Or even if making it is on the table at all anymore,
Okay, so if those big dreams, like owning a home, feel out of reach, let's talk about the everyday reality, the grind. What do the sources say about just getting by day to day when survival itself feels like a struggle?
The research really paints a picture of relentless effort, just constant motion. So many in Gen Z are juggling like 3, sometimes 4 side hustles just to stay afloat.
3 or 4 jobs.
Yeah, side hustles, gig work, whatever you call it. Because you look at these entry-level jobs, they pay maybe $15, $18 an hour if you're lucky. But then rent just eats it all up. Almost instantly.
And this ties into bigger employment trends.
Definitely. You see corporate jobs often demanding degrees, right? But then they offer very little stability, not much of a ladder to climb. It's precarious.
And this precarity, this lack of a clear path, it leads people to look elsewhere, right? The sources mention these escape plans,
Yeah, that term popped up a lot.
things like OnlyFans, becoming a content creator, maybe getting into crypto.
Right. Trying to find a different way.
And on the surface, okay, that sounds like, entrepreneurial spirit, freedom, building your own thing.
The appeal is obvious.
But did the sources dig into the downsides? Are these actually sustainable alternative? Or is it just swapping one kind of grind, one kind of pressure for another?
That's a really key question.
Yeah.
And the sources suggest, yeah, it's often just shifting the precarity around, not really escaping it.
So it's not a magic bullet.
Not usually, no. I mean, some people find real success, absolutely. But for many, it's trading the 9-to-5 grind for a 247 grind, often with zero safety net, no benefits, no protections. They're trying to bypass those traditional routes precisely because those routes feel broken or unrewarding.
Yeah.
There was this collective feeling that came through in the sources, summed up perfectly as, everyone's grinding, but no one's winning.
Everyone's grinding, but no one's winning. That really captures a sense of futility.
Yeah, deep frustration.
Yeah.
Like, all this effort isn't paying off in the ways it was supposed to. The promise feels broken.
And as we look deeper into all these pressures, the money, the work, the housing insecurity, something else kept coming up. And it was, frankly, quite heartbreaking, the mental health side of things.
Oh, absolutely. It's unavoidable in this discussion.
The sources actually describe Gen Z as the most anxious and depressed generation in U.S. history. How does all this economic stuff, this grind, connect to that?
Well, it's a really complex but also deeply concerning connection. The sources talk about social media, obviously, not just comparison, but the way algorithms are designed to amplify comparison. It creates this constant need to perform, this anxiety.
The highlight reel effect.
Exactly. And then you layer on this hustle culture
Yeah.
that talks a big game about rewards, but often delivers instability.
Yeah.
Add the financial despair we've been talking about.
Yeah.
It creates this unique kind of emotional pressure cooker.
Yeah.
It's not just that they're anxious, it's that the whole system feels rigged, like your effort doesn't actually guarantee a positive outcome.
Leading to hopelessness.
A profound sense of powerlessness.
Yeah. And burnout. The sources mention record numbers reporting burnout, even suicidal thoughts, feeling really isolated.
That's incredibly serious.
It is. And it's reflected in things like the normalization of therapy apps or antidepressants being common by age 19.
Wow.
By 19.
There's this anonymous viral TikTok post that just nailed it. It said, "We're not lazy, we're broken."
We're not lazy, we're broken. That cuts deep.
It really underscores how these big systemic pressures are hitting individuals incredibly hard. It's impacting well-being on a massive scale.
So, okay, you've got financial stress, work stress, housing stress, this huge mental health burden. How does Gen Z look at the political system in all of this? The sources mention there's often politically active, right?
Yeah, very engaged in many ways. Activism is high.
But then there's also this undercurrent of just deep cynicism. Like, what's the point of engaging?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what that tells us about the bigger picture is that despite the activism, there's this really profound feeling of political disillusionment.
From both sides.
Yeah, the sources suggest that both the political left and the right are seen as pretty disconnected from their actual lived struggle.
So they feel ignored.
Ignored, overworked, and just not heard. Even though they desperately want real change. There was another really powerful quote capturing this. "We're told to vote, but not given a future to vote for."
Not given a future to vote for. That implies a real lack of faith in the system's ability to deliver any kind of positive vision.
A deep sense of betrayal, almost. Like the traditional paths for change just aren't working for them. Futility.
So if the traditional American dream feels impossible and the political system feels unresponsive, what are they doing? Our sources show something pretty dramatic. They're actively leaving that dream behind.
That's right. Not just letting it fade, but consciously stepping away.
How does that look in practice?
What shows up in some really diverse ways, the sources talked about thousands moving abroad.
Oh, really? Where to?
Places like Mexico, Portugal, parts of Southeast Asia, basically seeking more affordable living, maybe different kinds of opportunities altogether.
Interesting. What else?
Then you've got others embracing minimalism or van life, maybe trying to live off-grid, essentially looking for a simpler life outside the mainstream consumer system.
Opting out, in a way.
Completely. And maybe one of the most striking things mentioned was some people turning towards AI companionship instead of human relationships.
Wow. AI companions.
Yeah. Which says a lot about the emotional landscape, the difficulty perhaps in forming connections or maybe just seeking something less complicated given all the other stresses.
That's quite a statement about the
It
times.
really is. And it all seems to circle back to this fundamental question that echoes through the sources. Why stay in a system that doesn't care about you?
Yeah. That question hangs in the air. It's clear from everything we've looked at today.
Yeah.
The American dream, it didn't just suddenly vanish.
No, not overnight.
It's more like, as our sources put it so well, it faded paycheck by paycheck, loan by loan, broken promise by broken promise.
That captures it perfectly. The slow erosion.
Mhm.
But, despite all the immense challenges, this despair we've touched on, the sources also highlight the resilience here.
That's important too.
Yeah. They make the point that Gen Z is not weak. They're just tired of fighting a system designed to break them.
So they're adapting, finding new ways.
Exactly. They're forging new paths, figuring out different ways to define what success even means, even if that means completely stepping outside that old traditional story.
Which brings us back to the beginning, in a way. Given everything we've explored today, all the shifting ground, the stark realities facing Gen Z, maybe the final thought for you listening is, what's your version of the American dream now?